Hey everybody, it is Monday afternoon and I always like to try to shoot a little bit of light fare on Mondays. I do a live stream on Sunday nights and last night's ran almost 3 hours, so I like to give people a few days to work their way through that if they choose to watch my live streams. So today we're going to do a simple feeding video. We're going to have a look at the discus again, and we're going to talk about the discus a little bit. Once I throw the food in there, I'll take the camera off the tripod and we can have a look at the discus a little more up close and personal. And today's food is going to be frozen bloodworms, which have already been pre-thawed. I didn't rinse the water or anything like that. This is just a cube that was dropped in some water, and now we're going to pour it in the tank. Try to mix it around a little bit so everybody gets some of them. And now I'm going to attempt to get you off of the tripod. There you go. Without breaking your neck too much. So one of these days I'm going to sit down and shoot a video specifically about my experiences and my thoughts about keeping the discus. So far, I am more than thrilled with them. If you watch any of my live streams that I just mentioned, you will know I rant and rave about these fish. I go on and on about how much I love them. And one of the things I find so fascinating about them is that they are, by nature, bottom feeders. I never really would have thought a discus would be a bottom feeding type fish, but they actually are. In their native habitat, they do a great deal of their feeding off of the bottom, pecking through the detritus and sifting through all of the leaf litter, looking for little crustaceans and insect larvae. As I say often, they have surprised me about how active they are. I really expected these discus to be very sort of sedate fish that didn't do a whole lot around the tank, and yet they've turned out to be amazingly active. They're always investigating and rooting around, looking at stuff, pecking in between the leaves of the different plants. They interact with each other. They're constantly sorting out who's who in their school and their pecking order. Just an absolute joy to have these discus in the tank. And if you're wondering about how difficult they are to keep, so far they are not proving difficult at all. I'm not keeping them any differently than I keep any of my other fish. I'm not really doing anything different in this tank. The only thing I did different when I put the discus in this tank is I raised the temperature from about 78 degrees. It was in the upper 70s. I now have it set at 81 degrees. So we are now in the low 80s, but we're not, 85, 86 degrees where a lot of people say you must keep it in order to keep the discus healthy. So we're around 81 degrees. I don't really particularly do frequent water changes on this tank. I'm trying to keep it to one every few weeks. The nitrate usually sits somewhere between 40 and 80 parts per million. And I've got fairly soft water, and it is fairly acidic. It's around 6.5. I've got no real hardness, not a lot of carbonate hardness. So it is pretty soft water for them. But it's by no means nitrate free, and frequent water changes and all the particulars with all the fiddly little foods. And you can see I keep them in a tank with lots of other fish and a nice vibrant community tank. I keep them in a well-stocked planted tank. There's lots of woodwork, there's gravel. So definitely not the kind of setup you will often see people keeping their discus in. And that's the whole point. I wanted to really see what discus would look like in a more natural setting and environment, and I gotta say I'm really happy with the way they look. They're just absolutely fantastic. Again, these fish are just a joy to have, and so I'm trying to encourage other people that might be a little bit leery as to whether or not they think they could keep these discus. They're often described as being very difficult to keep, and you have to be a very highly skilled fish keeper to keep them. And again, I'm going to disagree with that. I think you need to have some skills. You can't be a novice or a beginner. You have to be an experienced fish keeper to keep them. But as far as being some kind of mad genius fish keeper that pays attention to every little detail and so on and so forth, I think that's a little bit more of the mythos of keeping Discus than the reality of keeping Discus. Maybe once upon a time it was like that when the Discus were wild and imported, but nowadays they've been bred in captivity for so many generations at this point. To me, they don't seem much more difficult to take care of than angelfish. And I always tell that to people. If you've got the skills to keep a tank stable enough that things like angelfish and the rainbow fish you can see in here, if you can keep fish like that alive, if you can keep a nice, stable, healthy aquarium running, then I don't see any reason why you wouldn't be able to keep some Discus for yourself. And they, again, are an absolute joy to own. So if you've got a fairly large tank, if you've got some experience, and if you've got some spare change, because they are not inexpensive fish, then I would certainly recommend making that leap and getting some Discus for yourself. I think once you get some, like me, you will never look back, and you will be so happy you got them. And you will get much, much joy out of them the way I do. So there you go, everybody. There's my Monday look at my Discus. I hope you enjoyed that. Make sure you're subscribed, ring that bell, hit that notification button, all that good stuff. You don't want to miss anything I've got coming up. And don't forget, of course, I do a live stream every Friday night and Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and I do a live stream Wednesday night for my members only. It's a private live stream. It's a lot of fun, so sign up for a basic membership if you're interested in that on Wednesday evenings. So again, thanks for watching this one, and I will see you real soon on the next one.